In my life journey as a creative person, I come across many creative persons who are from different walks of life. And every time I meet them, I have a discussion with them about their design process, about their thought process, what inspires them, about their journey, and so many things. So this time on, I've decided that why not record that and put it in front of you guys so that we all get inspired together and we all create amazing stuff. So today I have someone who is extraordinarily incredible in her work. She is a fashion designer, she's a dancer, she has done costumes for an animation film, she has done costumes for theatre production, stage production and whatnot. She's also a teacher of design. So here we have Sandhya Lalloo Morar. Oh Sandhya, I'm so glad to have you here. Thanks for being my guest.
Thank you so much, Vino. I really appreciate this, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to just talk design.
Oh, it's my pleasure totally, because we meet in several events and I've always wanted to have this conversation with you because you have so many different avenues that you have walked on. Like you are a teacher, design teacher, and you have done costumes for an animation movie, for stage productions, and also now running a sustainable fashion brand. I mean, look at your journey. Wow, I really wanted to know your whole journey and your design thought process, your design process, and everything about the way you work and who you are.
Wow. Well, when you put it that way, you make me sound like I've done so many things, but in my mind, I've only done design, So I think that encompasses a lot of different avenues. And I've just always just gone with my gut and followed what I thought, what I wanted to do. And it's been a long road. So, yeah.
Sandhya, I've always wondered, when you are born, we are all creative, right? As a child, we all have scribbled, we all have worked with crayons, and we all have come here with some amount of creativity. That's what I believe. But what do you think, your circumstances and the family you are in, the country you are raised, do you think all these things contribute in making you a rounded creative person, or can creativity be an acquired skill?
I think it could be both. For me, I think it was my surroundings. I grew up in a very colorful home. My dad, being a medical doctor in South Africa, ran a full-time dance school and taught dance in South Africa. And my mum, who was a social worker, basically sewed costumes. Our heritage, we came to South Africa my great-grandparents came to South Africa over 150 years ago. With them, they brought their trade, which was sewing. As you well know, the caste system, we were the sewers, the people that made clothes. Mm-hmm. And they brought that skill with them when they came to South Africa. And I think everyone in my family, even to this day, still has sewing machines in their home. My dad, born in South Africa and raised during the apartheid era, and my mum, they weren't really allowed to study at the universities because of the color of their skin, because at some point we had apartheid in South Africa. So my dad had finished high school and decided he was always interested in dance and creating, performances and everything. And he thought, well, he's got the brains. He needs to study. He needs to support his family, like my grandparents, and he was the oldest of all his siblings. So he went back to India. He didn't go back, but he went to India on a boat. And he spent 3 months on a boat to get to India. And he studied medicine in Bombay.
Wow.
And he spent 7 years in Bombay, and he did a lot of plays, learned a lot about the Indian film industry, and all of, performances, was so inspired by everything that was happening around him. And after the 7 years, he came back to South Africa, had his degree in his hand, and he thought, this is not really me. The medical degree is not really me. But he had to pay off the debt of my grandfather, who had helped him do get his studies in India. So he worked in one of the South African hospitals, and obviously then he met my mum, and they got married. They had 3 kids, and he needed to support the family. So he ran 3 rooms, like medical practices in South Africa, after he left the hospital that he was working at. And 3 to 4 times a week, every evening, he would run a dance school. Now, being brought up in apartheid South Africa, we were in our own little township, okay? And there was only Indian people there. And we were trying to hold on to our heritage because at the end of the day, we were South African, but of Indian origin. And if you know anything about South Africa, we are a rainbow nation. So we have black, white, Indian colored. And with the apartheid era, we weren't allowed to mix. So hence, I'm still brown. Hence, I still have an Indian name, but I'm South African. And I think that was the whole point of actually trying to understand who we were and what we were, because we weren't really Indian, we weren't really South African, and trying to find our own little space in the world. And I think that just what my dad was trying to do is kind of keep the culture alive. So he ran this dance school. It was called the Jankar School of Dance. It still exists till today. He only kind of stopped formally running classes in apartheid era. My dad's now 77 and he's still dancing. And through that, we had annual productions every year for formally ran the school for 35 years. And before that, he ran it informally as in community-based, where they raised money, built temples, fed the poor, went on road shows, kind of created their own little plays and traveled around South Africa. And my mom would make all these costumes. My dad would sketch them because as much as he studied medicine, he was, really good at painting, drawing, very creative. I mean, to this day, our home is still filled with his amazing paintings. Even when he ran his rooms, back then we didn't have Instagram and all this wasting time on phones. So he would have his sketch pad, his oil paintings in his drawers while he saw patients, right? And this is all rural Africa, right? In South Africa, I know it was the one surgery was on a sunflower farm. The other one was on a cornfield. So even as kids, we would go there because it was so rural. And during our holidays, we would go there and count the pearls of how many we needed to fill in packets. Okay. So it was a really beautiful childhood growing up, picking up acorns, making things with them. And every year he had a show that was theme-based. And that means we had to do research about what it was, what kind of music we're using, and we were exposed to Indian music and dance, but in our own way. And we made costumes. I grew up in a home that was just filled with furs, feathers, glitter, everybody performing, artists coming in, rehearsals. Wow. It was just an amazing childhood. And obviously when I finished school, and I was like, I want to study design. There was no, you can't go and study design. You should do medicine. There was none of that, That was none of that. They was just like, you go do what you need to do. And then I studied fashion at the University of Johannesburg. And later on at age 21, became a lecturer at the university because my grades were so good. And I think it was just such an eye-opener because I was just, all through those years of even studying design, I was still making costumes. So I started making costume much before actually studying design formally, because my whole childhood was helping my mom, cutting it. I mean, I would dress my dog, whatever, make my own things at a young age. I mean, I had my sewing machine probably at age 6 or something. And I think that just also helped build my own person. I just, I wanted to study art. My parents changed, although I went to government school, they changed our school so that we could be with an art teacher. Helped us along the way of whatever they could give us, and provide for us. So I was really fortunate that, that all happened. And then I studied at the University of Johannesburg. And then when I finished my 4th year, I had a really nice friend, and apartheid ended in 98 when I just finished high school. Okay. So I could go to the university when I was 18. So I just made it. And when I got to university, I saw, and I could be in classrooms with people of other color.
Everyone.
So one of my good friends was Jackie, who was a white girl. And, we became the best of friends. To this day, we're the best of friends. It's been over 20 years. We call ourselves, we are the oldest friends, that I have. One of the oldest friends that I have. And I mean, she's currently in the UK. And she said to me, you need to come to the UK. You need to explore what is happening. We've read everything about all these designers in books and things, and we've not touched and felt the real designs, because South Africa was not open to all these things. We just had South African brands.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have high-end fashion. All we knew about them was what we read in magazines, and you would go to the library, you would page through all those magazines and see all this high fashion, but you just never had the opportunity to actually touch and feel. And when I was 21, I went to London and I spent like 7 months there, worked in Harrods, Selfridges, just to kind of explore what it is. And every day was different. And then Jackie was one of the lucky ones. She was staying longer, so she actually started working for Issey Miyake's store.
Oh.
And she got to meet him, and I was like, oh my God, that's my idol. You get to meet him. I want to be, I wanted to see him. But yeah, it was just one of those life-changing experiences of actually being in the UK, working there, and then traveling Europe for on my own, doing my own thing, and then coming back to South Africa and becoming a lecturer
at this 21. Point, I wanted to ask you, can you name your dad and mom on this show?
Yeah, sure. So my dad's Ranjit Lalloo. And my mom's Daksha Lalloo.
And are they visiting Dubai anytime soon?
They come at least once a year.
I would love to meet them. When they are here next time, please let me know.
No, we would. I would love for you to meet them. I mean, they've met some of the dancers here, and they find it so inspiring as well that when they come here, I take them to shows, and we go and see artists, and we just relax and chill out and do whatever they want to do, and they just love it here as well. So I mean,
when you were talking about your childhood, you have no idea how much I was tearing up, because I have a doctor dad who is no more. So I could totally relate. Somebody who is working in a small community in a village, serving the villagers. Oh, I would love to meet your dad. Don't forget to call me.
For sure. And then that's a study design, lectured at the university for 7 years at the.
But lecturing is altogether a different thing, right? Because teaching art and design is totally different from teaching math or English, no?
It is different. So I was fortunate. I was given more of the creative subjects like the history of fashion, and I taught 2 and 3 dimensional design. So we make things. So. One of the things that, so before it became University of Johannesburg, it was the Technikon Witwatersrand, so it's more technical school. And then we became the University of Johannesburg, where then I did my master's. So when I finished, and I was lecturing for such a long time, they said, we're becoming the university now and we are expanding, so would like all our staff to now do their master's. And then that's when I started doing my master's and things. And I was one of the first that finished their masters at the University of Johannesburg, and cum laude as well, which was really great for the university, because we didn't come from the research based. We came from more practical experience. And I think that was really important, because I had both then. I had the technical, and then I had the research aspect of it. I mean, it took like a long 3 years, but it was completely worth it, because at that point I just, delved into anything that I was interested in.
And what was your dance career all through this?
So I danced every day. So because my father ran the school, it was just normal that you attend classes, Okay. So again, we danced like 2-3 times a week. I even taught dance, because it was like in our blood, right? So the dance school ran the whole year through. We only closed in December. And we would have shows in September every year. So end of August, September, when the school year was, not as busy. And basically, we were performing for Nelson Mandela. We were on TV shows. We were on everywhere, because, again, to show that South Africa was so Rainbow Nation, multicultural, and then with Nelson Mandela becoming the president, we needed to show the world what we were about. And through dance, I got to perform at the All Africa Games, at the cricket stadiums, at Nelson Mandela's, all his events, TV shows. We would always see the Indian dancers in the background, and it was just beautiful. So it was so nice growing up, because I was exposed to so much. And it just seemed so natural and normal that this is what I do. I make the costumes. We all get dressed. We all go dance, and then we have these fashion shows as well, because I have this host of beautiful girls that are my friends, and they all want things, and then they would be like, let's put an Indo-African fashion show together.
I actually wanted to ask you that. What is that style look like? Like, what does it look like?
I think it's like kind of tribal, but it was like, I think like with anyone coming from that Indian background, we would cut up our parents' saris or something, okay? We make clothes out of that, and then we'd make something with an African print on it. We would incorporate that into it, and just kind of like blend all these different aspects, right? So even then our dance started changing, and I think that also was so important, because again, we were trying to find an identity, right? So we're Indian, but we're South African, and we needed to create like an Indo-African version of
things. A blend of both.
And I think that's also what has, made me so intrigued about design, because it was then fusing things. It wasn't I'm just copy pasting. I'm trying to create something that's not there.
Yeah.
And not just showing the Africanness of it or the Indianness of it. It was kind of like create what you are, And I think from a young age, and again, being a lecturer to many different culture, like backgrounds in Johannesburg, it was very like, this is not, there wasn't one way, because everybody was taking from their backgrounds. And like, it was really nice to see our annual fashion shows, because they were so diverse. And even if we entered competitions, like you would see the very big differentiation between each designer because of our background. Whether it was a European, an Afrikaner, or, a Xhosa, a Zulu, you could see that. And everyone kind of brought their little background in. And knowing South Africa, we have 11 official languages, okay? And growing up, because I was brought up in apartheid South Africa, mine is mainly English and Afrikaans. But as I finished school, with 11 official languages, then there was Xhosa, Zulu, Tswana, the whole lot of other languages, but each one with their own tribe. So then it was this research into backgrounds of African, heritage, and understanding what the prints meant, why the houses are so colorful, or why they're orange in this one, and why does this one mean this. So it was learning a lot about who our counterparts are and who they were and what they're doing and why do they have this, and then painted faces. And it was just a very rich culture that was
very
coming out.
Very strong foundation for the whole design journey. But looking back, how have you evolved as a designer? Your starting point was that it was like a melting pot of different cultures. And now you are here in Dubai running a sustainable fashion brand, and which is inspired by movement. And hearing your story, no wonder it's inspired by movement, because you are that.
Oh, what I know.
It is just you.
It's just
how
me.
have you evolved? Now, the clothes that you make for your brand, does that take inspiration from this? Because the brand name is Ido, right?
Yeah. So it's Ido, actually.
Ido,
Ido is Japanese for shift
in
the movement. So my master's was in Japanese design, and that's what I was saying. When I went to London when I was 21, I was so inspired by these Japanese designers. And like for a long time, since I got introduced to them, like Rei Kawakubo, Yohji Yamamoto, and Issey Miyake, was like, oh my God, like they were in the 80s, the biggest inspiration for me. And when I started learning about them, I was like, these guys are just insane, like I was so mind blown by who they are and what they created and how they changed the whole face of fashion, like they went to Paris in the 80s and they just did their thing. And I thought that was just so powerful. And then studying them for like 3-4 years, I was already in Dubai. My husband, we just got married, and he was like, we need to move to Dubai. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's never going to happen. It's like, you just tell me these things, they're never going to happen. And it just so happened, it happened. Okay. So I was running my own company while I was lecturing, and I was just making normal clothes and just supplying stores in South Africa. So I had my own little seamstress at home, just, in my parents' home, creating costumes and then creating small ranges, doing the South African Fashion Week, the designing dabas, all of that. So for my whole career as a lecturer in South Africa, I also had done exhibitions, all the fashion weeks, because I wasn't full-time. I was just a part-time lecturer, and then I could run my company on the side. So running my company, lecturing, dancing, it was like just, this is what I do all day, every day. And after that, when I got married, I had to close everything down and just move to Dubai. And I was like, what am I doing here? And that's when I had decided to do my master's. And I thought, okay, before I'd left South Africa, they said, come up with a topic. And then I was like, I was really inspired by these Japanese designers. So I was like, I just need to find out what they did that was so mind-blowing that they changed the way we see fashion today. And then I started researching them. I had every book under the sun. I had all the time to sit and read and, just experiment with different looks and things. And that when my black era started, everything I owned started becoming black. Unisex and, the idea of just creating these pieces that lasted so long. And that was my whole thing. And I mean, I moved here in 2009, 2010. And I had finished the master's around 2015 or something. And I thought, okay, right now, let's see, maybe I move into lecturing here. What do I do? And at that time also, I started working in the film industry here and also working in advertising. So my husband would just travel all the time. I was just here on my own. I didn't have my kid by then. I was just on my own. I needed to figure out what I'm going to do. And the only thing I knew was fashion. Design. And when I came here, there wasn't much. The industry was just...
This was when? 2015?
2010. 2009 to 2010. Wow. 2010. There wasn't much of a fashion scene here. There was a lot of abayas and things, but there wasn't something like the things that we have now, the opportunities that we had now. There wasn't like a Facebook group or a Instagram. There wasn't any of those things. So it was really hard to get out there. And kind of being the extrovert introvert that I am,
Artist trait.
Yes, I just didn't know where to start. So I started still making clothes, and then I used to make lots of jackets and things in South Africa, but then I was like, the weather is just not going to work. And I still had lots of clients back home, so I was still doing my own thing, shipping it out, spending a few months there, a few months here, and just kind of figuring out what I'm going to do. And then one of my friends said, why don't you get into styling? So I was like, okay, sounds good, and then I started working with a couple of agencies. I even worked as a shoe designer at Italian Shoe Factory. I mean, I just tried everything. And then I fell into this whole styling thing where I was like, styling shoots, big campaigns, Emirates Airlines, working with Nicole Kidman, flying around to Chanel Fashion Week,
Wow.
the Chanel show, So it was just, again, something I just ran with and started styling for all these advertising campaigns. And I did it for 10 years. In Dubai. And then I thought, it's like I'm not using what I studied and my ability
expressing yourself.
Yes, I'm just buying and I'm steaming clothes on set. I mean, I felt that hole. And I was even lecturing at one of the universities of the FAD International, but it just felt like it wasn't enough. And as much as even they asked me to be like head of department at MIT or whatever, it wasn't for me. I didn't want to just become a lecturer anymore.
There is no outlet for your creative energy that's piling up inside. No?
Exactly. And for me, the ideal life is to still, be dancing, creating clothes and creating costume. And in my mind, that is what I wanted to do all my life. So I thought, I'm not getting any younger, and I'm just going to now put my effort into this long-term thinking and go with what my heart is telling me to do. And then around 2019, just before COVID hit, I started, coming up with a name. And again, it's Japanese inspired. And I thought to my husband, at 2015, I had my son, so even he has a Japanese name. And then we went to Japan, and this whole Japanese era started. And I thought to myself, I want it simple, I want it minimalist, I wanted unisex, and I wanted to last a long time. And then I was started delving into this idea that, sustainability, making it last long, looking at, designs that are not fast fashion, and everything started resonating with me of whatever I studied. Like, it started coming back 5 years later, it was always at the back of my mind. And I thought, okay, let's just move with this. And then, because I was attending dance classes here, because I felt, when I had left South Africa, I was still running back for the last 10 years to go and make costumes for my dad's show. So every June, July, August, I would just go and sit in South Africa and make thousands of costumes and then come back here.
Wow.
So I thought, I need to find schools here. And I need to join some community of dancers, because at the end of the day, when I moved here, I felt like I was lost, because I didn't have my design, and I didn't have my dance, and I didn't have my friends, and I didn't have anything. I just had my husband who was sitting in the office the whole day, And I was like, what do I do with myself? So I just started researching, like, where can I find a dance school? And I found a few. There was one that started, and then I made some friends there. And then I got pregnant with my son. And I thought, okay, I can't stop dancing now. Now, it doesn't mean my life must change, because at the end of the day, who am I? I'm Sandhya. I'm a dancer and a designer. I need this for the rest of my life. Otherwise, I will not be complete. And I just joined a dance school, carried on dancing. Then the teacher found out I'm a designer. And then I showed her some of my work that I do. And then she was like, I'll make my costumes. I'm like, okay, fine. And then she closed down the school. And then I moved to another one. And that's when I met Ala Krimit from the Sima Dance Company. And I was doing some personal classes with them, because I felt like, oh my God, this dance is like amazing, like contemporary dance and ballet. And I was never exposed to that, because I grew up in apartheid South Africa, so I couldn't really take ballet and contemporary dance there, because that was only for white people. Okay. So I started joining this school and taking some private classes, and when I told them I'm a stylist, they just assumed it meant makeup. And then I started like wearing the clothes I was wearing, and then they were like, you have such nice clothes. And like, where did you get it from? I'm like, I make my clothes, And they were like, maybe you can design us some costumes. And then they're like, okay, make a mood board for us. This is what I'm working on. And of course, because of my studies of Japanese design and, the way they like the dancers to look and feel, we had a really good connection. And Ala was like, make me a sample, make me this. And I just started making their costumes, which was amazing, because I made things for the Louvre, I made things for Fujairah Dance Arts Festival, and I started building that reputation of costume designer, yeah.
And now I'm curious about something, like when you design costume for stage, right, for performances, like what are the considerations that you have while designing? Yes, of course, it has to facilitate movement without any restriction, but they're going to be on a stage, and there are going to be audience sitting down or back or much far from them watching, and there's going to be lights. There are lights that are going to fall. So what are the things that you have in mind?
I think it's something that comes so naturally, because first of all, I think one thing all the dancers appreciate is I understand dance. So when I'm creating, I understand that they're going to need like a lot of they need to do a lot of like floor, like longevity is so important in a costume. Nothing that's going to pop, break, fall apart, and comfort, because I mean, if you see like Sima Dance Company perform, it's mind-blowing, the amount of energy and effort and like how versatile they are as dancers. I mean, you see them rolling on the floor, they're like 1 hour performance, nothing must fall apart, there's no pins, nothing. They can't have those things because they get stabbed, So creating the costumes, it again also, they like the idea that it's unisex, because most of their dancers, they like the dancers to kind of look like an army, so they all look the same, and you can't tell is it a boy or a girl, because they all dance so like you think you're watching a mirror, or like a one person in a mirrored form, but it's just like so breathtaking to actually watch that, and knowing this coming from also like my dad's school, of what they wanted, so I'm never told, like by many, like especially with Ala, I'm never told what to do. I'm asked to create. Even with my dad, it's like, this is the piece, this is what it kind of means, what comes to your mind,
Wow. Okay.
So I kind of put those ideas into like a little presentation or make a sample up and then present it. And then from there, they kind of, yes, no, let's make a sample. Okay, this is not working. I like this idea. So it's like, what's so beautiful, it's like a collaboration of ideas, because in their mind also they have what they think they want it to look like, but they don't know exactly what they want it to look like. And in my mind, I see something when I listen to the music and I see the dancing. So it's like I'm, again, a visual person, and that's why I love going for dance classes, because as I'm learning, I'm picturing all these people in front of me in these amazing clothes, because that's how my mind works. And then I'm like so inspired by something they did or moved or wore, or a color on a person, and then I create something. And then I'm like, okay, this was inspired by this person because of their personality, of their move, of the way they are, or it just reminds me of them. And I think that's how I've also, they feel so proud to say that someone's actually, recognize their talent or kind of see what they're all about. So I think that's also a really nice way of giving back to the community, because, yes, there's many athletes out there, and they all get a medal or money for or whatever, get sponsored by big brands. But who are the artists? The artists are the ones that create, the dancers are the ones that create, the composers are the ones that create like something out of nothing. But nobody talks about them. Nobody sponsors them. Nobody gives them big bonuses or big fat checks because of what they've created. It's like maybe a handful. But to think of how much of effort and work and training they put in, oh my God. I mean, I've been training for 10 years just here, and I'm nowhere even near where they are. And I kind of train almost every day, which is insane. But the thing is, they've put in their life work in like 6 hours a day or 10 hours a day into what they do. And yet they're not kind of rewarded for it. So I always thought to myself, like, it would be nice to write their story. It would be nice to tell their story. It would be nice to say where they are teaching or what they're doing. Because again, that community is kind of like, only if you know them and you know where they're going to go, because you kind of know the Instagram profile. But there's so much talent. And, it just like, for me, it just makes me happy to actually tell their story. So it's more about who they are, what they are, and how they've inspired me to create something.
And how do you choose them for collaboration? Like, what do they do?
I know them personally.
Okay,
so for me, it's like either I've worked with them, or they come to a class, or I've spoken to them, or like I've seen them perform. But it's very like,
you name your
I know
products,
them.
You
Yes.
name your products
After an actual
them?
person that I know, or I've worked with, or I've been inspired by. And then now recently we started writing about them, and now kind of doing photo shoots with them. And then during COVID, I was helping them, talk about what they're doing so they could, give extra classes. I was giving like what was it? We were doing these, not a podcast, but like a channel where we were, interviewing them to say, you can do a stretch class with Teresa because she'll be teaching here. So it's just kind of make people more aware of what is available, because there wasn't that. And I was just trying to, gain momentum with, getting the classes more filled up, or, like even with my own son, he's into the Muay Thai and he's into the flipping and whatever, and I wanted to introduce him the way I was introduced to dance and like movement, so I introduced him to like Mustafa, who's the striker that does amazing things. He's won the Red Bull Championship so many times, and kind of just making him see that these are people that are around you, you could be so inspired by, and watch them perform and how they train and how they think, so that he had the kind of hope in the hope that one day when he grows up, he would be like, when I was young, my mom was a bit of a lunatic, and she dragged me along to all these places to watch performances and art and things, because that's the way I was inspired, right? Because if it wasn't for my dad, who basically showed us there was a different way, instead of just saying, what, I'm a doctor, you're a doctor, that's it, you need to do what you feel. And that's why he always said, when he had that degree, he was like, this is not me. Yes, it'll pay the bills, but it's not me. And that's why he also decided to work in rural Africa, in South Africa, in like the Bundus, because he wanted to give back to a community, and obviously because he had studied in India, and he didn't want it close to home, so that he would go there during the day and not have patients at night, so that he could run a dance school at night. So it was a very well thought through plan. Like, if I have a surgery that's 40 kilometers away from where I live, I wouldn't have to stay late nights, and I wouldn't get people knocking on my door, because he wasn't practicing in our neighborhood, because there's many doctors, whatever, in our community, but he went to rural areas where there was no electricity, no running water, on a farm, working with people from the farm. And to this day, like, if he goes there, they would still know who he is. I mean, to the point where he would pick up patients on the side of the road and take him to the surgery, because they knew his car is coming and it's a sand dirt road. So just like shocking to understand, like, and he knew everyone, like, knew the kids, the grandkids, like, the whole family tree of where and how, and how many children they had, and where they're studying, and whose daughter's doing what. I was like, he was there for so long. He was
His
there
life
for over,
was all about community
in this rural area. So it was one of those things where he just wanted to be so far that it was like a different profession during the day and a different profession at night, and everybody knew him as a dancing doctor. And it was like even growing up, everybody's like, your dad dances, your dad. It's like, yeah, and everybody knows him to this day. If I say my dad's name in our community, they'll know exactly who I am because of him and what the legacy he's actually left and leaving for us. So it was really like the best time of my life, and that's why when I came here, I was like, I just need to find my tribe, and my tribe is dancers and designing, and I just love making stuff for them. So anytime, like, they'll be like phoning me, even today, like the girls are performing at the Zabul Sari and they needed clothes, and I am like, just tell me, like, what is the theme, whatever, and then I fill up a bag of stuff, and I'm like, okay, just wear whatever you think you need to wear and give it to me after you're done. Because at the end of the day, I have so many things, and I just loved dressing them. So it's just one of those things that just come naturally.
And in the middle of all this, how did the animation film happen?
So that was in about 2013, when I was just finishing up my master's. I graduated in 2015. So I got on my LinkedIn that they were looking for a costume designer. And it was actually just here around the corner, the Barajuan studios. And when I went there, they were like, can you come in for a meeting? So I was like, okay, fine. And then I went there, and I met like really nice people. The offices weren't even done. It was just one concrete place, nothing there. We sat at a small table that was just put there. And they said to me, well, they're looking for designers that can help create costume for this characters, okay? And I was like, okay. And I think what really was why I think I was selected is, first of all, they were looking for someone that would understand the Indian and the African and the like kind of research history. So it's not me creating out of my mind, but because I also had taught history of clothing and mixing that with the Indian African heritage, because Bilal was the first person to sing the call of prayer, the azan. And when you listen and you watch the movie, you understand that it was some part of Africa, and the look and feel of his mum and his family was supposed to be like something African, but still at the same time something Arab. And then the merchants and all of that, of how it should be. So it was like, when you see the actual clothing and things, you can see that balance between something out of like the Arabian world and the African world combined. And there wasn't many references, because that's the dark period, right? So like thinking back, like now I'm like, oh, this is like 10 years ago already. when we researched, and I was researching, there was nothing on the internet. There was only one book that they actually had given to me. It was all full of paintings, and kind of looking at the paintings and being inspired to create something that would actually work. And because it was the first animated movie, it was really interesting how they made it. So I worked 7 months on it. And every time they would just give me 10 characters at a time. And they would kind of tell me who the character is, what's his background, what's his color of clothing should be, because of, is he evil, is he good, that kind of thing. And then there was a witch doctor, which I also could resonate with because I come from Africa. We had witch doctors and, Medusas and all of those things, in the African heritage. So it kind of just, I think that's why it was a good pick. And then they just asked me to do some sketches and choose some fabrics. Now, because I got the Indian heritage with a little bit of Africa, I could get those samples. I could understand, yes, you're looking for the print, you're looking for something tribal, you're looking for something in silk. And making costumes in South Africa for my father also, understanding borders and colors and all of those things. So I would basically just go and shop fabrics and textures and put things together in color waves and then create an actual sketch for them.
Okay.
And then they would take the actual cloth, scan it into the computer, and would come up onto the screen. It was the most mind-blowing thing, because now in 2020, 2012, 2013, it was one of those things that just was so new. It wasn't something like how we see now, AI and all of those things. And I really worked well with them. So I was just like, wow. And then they asked me for the Dubai Film Festival to create one in 3D, which I did. And I think that was also, they gave me from their rendered version of what they wanted me to do. And my husband looked at it and he's like, are you sure you're going to be able to do this? And I'm like, of course I'm going to be able to do this. This is like easy as pie. And then I did it in like 5-6 days, but it required me working with like making a mask, making like a 3-dimensional thing that looked like a wolf, that looked like this, that had leather, that had belts. And I just worked and I did it. And he was like, I'm like, you don't understand. The magic is back again. So when I came to Dubai, I felt like the magic had switched off. And then when I started working on this film and stuff, and I honestly didn't even know how big it would be. I was just told, like, there's an animated movie that's coming out. And I worked 7 months on it. And by the time it came out, it was 2015. And I still remember, I just had my son in October. And they told me, oh, the film festival is in 10 days.
Wow.
Like, are you coming? I'm like, of course I'm coming. And I made sure I got there. And just giving birth to my kid and going straight onto the red carpet. I'm like, I'm going. Like, not missing this for the world. And it was just one of those mind-blowing experiences that I could actually, do something at that big scale. And to this day, that movie is still making its rounds because it was one of the biggest animated movies coming out of the Middle East.
So when you are narrating your story, there are many moments that you narrated as if they were lighter moments, but I can feel that, like for you coming here in this new land called Dubai, and then having no one, I've been there, done that, so exactly. I know how intense it is. So as a designer, especially as a creative person, right? Honestly, I think it's a creative person's trait to be an introvert. We might look like very extravagant extroverts who can go, very bubbly people who can go and talk to everyone. Actually, no. We have our own shutter. We expose so much and there is a shutter and there is so much going on inside. For any designer, whoever is watching this, or any creative person, or anyone who is watching this, what would be your advice to deal with all these things? Because
there's no right way. It just, some of us are just like, I think when I was younger, yes, I would like to be more chattier and do more things. I mean, like I was telling you before, I used to do styling, like the actual stylist on the TV program, telling people what to wear and throwing things around. But it was a different time. And I think as I got older, I just prefer in my little circle doing my own thing, creating my own things. And I don't need the judgment of, is it right, is it not right? Because at the end of the day, I've done everything. So I'm just going to do what makes me happy. And if that means just creating one collection a year, I'm happy with that. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to churn out things high fashion. I'm not here to churn out rubbish that I'm not happy with. You know, at the end of the day, I want to make a difference, and I want to, you know, tell my story through my things, you know, and do things the way I want to do it. I'm not interested in if it's the right way. And I think also as a lecturer, you know, we and you know this well, when we're studying fashion, right? It's like summer collection, winter collection, resort, this, that. Like, why? Why do we need all of that? I just thought that sounds like so much work, you know? And at the end of the day, you're not changing anything. And I mean, we've all done internships, and we've all seen how it is working in a factory background and what happens to workers and exploiting things. And I think one thing that I think that was so important for me, because when I was growing up, my mother made my clothes because she was so good at sewing. So we always had something different on compared to the rest of the people around me, because mom was creative and my dad would choose probably some fabric and, you know, make us something. So even to this day, like the jacket I'm wearing today is something that I made maybe 15 years ago, but I still keep it in my wardrobe and I still like it and I still will wear it. So, you know, just building that, your own identity and feeling comfortable in that. And I think when I came to Dubai, my clothes were so colorful. Oh my God, I had jeans that were bright green that I'd bleached and painted. My hair used to be pink, purple, and green. My shoes used to be yellow. And then I came here and everybody wore black and everybody had abayas and everybody wore high-end fashion. And I thought I needed to fit into that. And then when I worked in styling for 10 years, I did that. I was like, okay, I need to wear the latest and greatest. And then I was like, after I turned 40, I was like, nah, I like my black clothes. I prefer wearing the same thing every day. I kind of have a uniform when I go to to dance studios. And although I have a sustainable brand with so many things in it, I'm still a jeans and t-shirt person. And if you see me on any day, I always have sneakers on. Although I have a cupboard full of high heels, I rarely wear them these days. They're there for show, collecting dust. And like, even if I do get dressed, I don't feel comfortable in it. I prefer my jeans and t-shirts, you know, and just pulling something out. And my closet is just very basic now. Like, it's black, white, gray, and stripes.
Wow.
So although there are parts of color and things, at this point in my life, I just want simplicity. I just want not to think about what I'm going to wear in the morning. You know, I just want to put on something and be comfortable. I could be in my joggers all day. That's from the Ido Movement. I'm always in that. I do love shoes. I mean, maybe those are the most colorful things in my wardrobe. But I just feel like you need to be your own person. And as a creative, you don't want to be wearing or doing what the next person is doing. You need to kind of listen to that voice in you that says, this is me. And I mean, I look at you as well and I see that you're just so simple and approachable. But if I saw your Instagram, I'd be like, who's this woman? And why? She's so down to earth. And that's the thing. And I think that's where we don't have to pretend. We just can be who we are because we're so comfortable in that. Like, I know who I am. It's probably taken over 40 odd years, but like, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything. I think I've had a very colorful childhood. I'm super grateful for being inspired by my parents and, you know, for everything they've done. And, you know, even for my husband for moving out here, as much as I hated it in the start, I'm the one that doesn't want to leave at the moment. And just seeing, like, what next? Like, I always said, even in, like, when I was in my mid-30s, I felt like I'd done everything. I've done all the fashion weeks. Not all, I mean, not as many as you, but like I did the South African Fashion Week, I did the design in Davos, I did the talks, I did the TV thing, I did the movies, I did everything. So now I've like ticked those things off. It's out of my system. And I'm like, so what's next now? Retirement sounds good, but I just want to make my own things in my little corner and make myself happy. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like if you go with your gut and you actually believe that you will achieve what you're trying to achieve, you just go with it.
Go with the flow.
You're not forcing anything. You're just like, today I feel like having a print. Okay, I'm going to create this print. Who says you should create this print? Me. What if it doesn't sell? That doesn't matter. There will be one person that might like it, and there might be 100 people that don't. Okay, it's about finding that one person that doesn't want to follow the crowd. And I think that's so important, of trying to, not follow the sheep. Because they'll say, oh, this is, and when we were in design school, it's like, the color of the season is this. And we all need to follow the color of the season. And this is what's going on. And like, why? And, we need to have the resort look, and we need to have this, and we need to have sales, and we need to have 100 products, and this top needs to match this shorts only. And there were so many rules and regulations, and you're like, but I'm a creative, and I don't want any of those things to happen. Like, why do I need to wear my shorts and not my socks and sandals today? Like, why? There was like, and that's why I think I'm so inspired by dancers, because they don't care. They don't care what they're wearing, how they look. Whatever they put on, they look amazing. They have the most incredible bodies, and anything you put on them is like a work of art, and for me, I just look at them and think, there's so much I want to do. There's so much I want to create for you. Just let me create, and I'm like happy to do it. And I can see that that's reciprocated, because they come to me and they're like, do you think you have this, or can you do this for me, or what do you think of this? And then also, like you were saying, you want to work with artists and stuff. And like randomly I'll meet someone, like at my son's school even, there's Layla, this amazing Palestinian artist that does these really nice prints and stuff. And I just met her one day, we were sitting at the sports ground, and she had a notebook, and I was like, your stuff's so cool. And she was like, I did the mural on the wall there, did you not see it? I'm like, wow, no. So she paints murals. She even has one at the where the word, what is it called? The one of the souks, Medina Souk, right? And we did a collab together. She did this amazing print. We put it on a nice T-shirt that was made of silk modal. And, we told her story as well. And it's just like you meet people that you click with, and then you're like, okay, I think we gel. Let's do something. Like how you phoned me up and said, hey, we've chatted twice before. We feel comfortable. Our stories resonate with each other. We feel aligned.
Totally.
And let's just do something, So, and I think most of my life I've done that. I mean, the one day I was on a shoot, I think it was for Air Arabia, and we're creating all these different cultures for the airline. It never actually came to light. But the director that was working on it was actually one of the directors that work with Chanel. And I just jokingly said to him, so when can I come to a Chanel show? And he's like, why don't you come next month? And I was like, are you real? Are you for real? And he was like, yeah, sure, you can come stay with me if you want. I'll get you in. You can come help me as an assistant. I went to the Chanel show. Just the year before Karl Lagerfeld passed away. I was backstage. I saw every supermodel under the sun. I was holding camera equipment backstage, but who really cares? But the thing is, it's like you say, you connect with some people, and maybe a door opens, maybe a door doesn't. You don't know. You don't expect anything. You just go with the flow, and you be yourself.
Yep.
And again, life-changing moment. I would never have thought that would have ever happened in my entire life.
I totally agree to every single that you told today, because we are so aligned. As I told you, we are so aligned. I am just seeing another Vino sitting on that side and telling whatever is going on in my mind.
Soul sisters.
Oh yeah. I think when you're open to the universe, no?
Yeah.
It just gives you wonderful things. You just should not resist.
No, I think that's definitely it. And it takes a life journey. That's why I think things don't happen early in life. It like you need to listen to what exactly you want and try and, live that. Because at the end of the day, like by just running on a hamster wheel, we miss out on so much. We really miss out on so much, and we forget what is important to us and, how we could actually make a difference. And I think like with you also, listening to your story about, working with people in a small village and, knowing them by name, that is what makes a difference. Like you said, those small changes, you can't do something big on a big scale, but those small changes daily will lead to something. And I mean, I think of it as my dad as well, helping all those people in that rural areas every day. He changed their lives.
Yeah.
He really changed their lives. So, at the end of the day, he gave back. I mean, he taught me something. My mom also, with all her skills and social working and, her great culinary skills. It's just, I'm just fortunate. I'm so fortunate to have them and, have them inspire me in such ways. And it wasn't just, just cutting up, like this is the road you need to follow.
Amazing, Sandhya. Thank you so much for coming here. As I told you, yeah, we are soul sisters.
Yes.
We are totally soul sisters, and thank you so much for being my guest. And
I'm so happy. Like you've really, today my heart is full.
Same
Thank
here,
you.
same here. Thank you very much. I wish there were no mics in between so that I can give you a big hug.
Virtual hug.
Oh yeah,
Over the
virtual
table.
hug. Yes, thank you.
After.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Perfect.